particular Wednesday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. Much needed win for the Blazers. Needed that one. Boy, that one's got to feel good because I don't know if I'm just trying to convince myself. I don't know if it is a looking at this through pinwheeled colored glasses, but I'm watching this Blazer team and I'm seeing it, right? I'm seeing it. But then I'm also a realistic man. I'm also a respectful person of math. I'm not good at math, but I'm respectful of it. And it's like, I'm seeing it. It's like, yeah, they lost 7 in a row. And it's like, so what exactly are you seeing? And I think part of it is, you know how, like, you go from, like, the hot, like, you go to, like, you're like a hotel where they had a pool and a hot tub when you were a kid. Boy, what a day. What a time that was, right? When you would go and, like, we've talked about this multiple times. The Myers family road trips were very famous. We would stay at the Motel 6, and we would eat breakfast at Denny's, and then we would hit the road. And it was long days in the car because, well, that's just how you got around back in the – flying was for the rich people. There was no Southwest want to get away. Back in 1988, young Brenden, they did not exist. No. You hopped in the station wagon and you hit the open road and you had an atlas. You didn't have, obviously, a MapQuest. You went and you bought the map.
We had a road atlas in the car growing up.
Gotta have it. And
I'm just old enough, Justin. I know.
You hit that open road, and we would stay at a Motel 6, and you'd eat breakfast at a Denny's. But the treat would be maybe, potentially, and you didn't know. It was a roll of the dice. Is this Motel 6 going to have a pool? We don't know. We don't know if it's going to have a pool or not because, obviously, the internet hasn't been invented yet. We don't know what the internet is. We will see, right? That was hey, is the hotel going to have a pool? We'll see. Got that answer a lot because, well, that's the way you did it back in 1988. And, boy, if you would pull up, and you're like, all right, there we go, Motel 6. Here we go. There's a Denny's right across the parking lot. Good news. That's where we're having breakfast. And then you would take it like, oh, they got a pool. And even better, because not always the road trips were in the summer, but, like, even better, indoor pool. What? Boy, we are staying like Rockefellers now. And you would go and you would hop in the pool, and the pool would be that perfect temperature. Because I don't know about you growing up, but nobody that I knew that had a pool had a heated pool. No. You jumped in a pool, it was the middle of August, still ice cold water.
Yeah, difference where we grew up. I do know some people with heated pools.
Yeah. Sherwood folks had the heated pool, huh? With the solar panels with the heated pool.
We knew like one person who had a heated outdoor pool, lived over in Tualatin. And yeah, it was kind of like, we just knew you knew that person.
We didn't know that person. Had some people with some nice pools, still ice cold. I don't know how that works either. Probably
the difference. I mean,
probably because at night, even in the summer, it still gets cool around here at night, and there's no humidity to kind of sit down in it. But man, every pool, even on like the hottest day in August, you would jump in the pool, and it's like it is cold. And what was it? You got to get used to it. And so you do that. So man, we would go to a Motel 6. They got a pool. That pool's heated. That pool's a perfect 70 degrees.
They left the light on for you, Justin.
I told Tom Bodette wasn't lying. And you would jump in that pool, right? And it was perfect. And then, if there was no adults, because that was, it wasn't a rule, but it was kind of a guideline that if there was a hot tub at the hotel pool, if there's adults sitting in the hot tub, you don't go in it, right? We're in the pool playing Marco Polo, right? You don't go in the hot tub if there's adults sitting in it. But if there was no adults there, and that hot tub was wide open, and you go from the pool, play a little Marco Polo, do a little camel fight. I don't know if that's an appropriate term anymore, but that's what we called it when you put it on shoulders. And, you do your handstand in the shallow end of the pool because obviously you could do handstands. And then you go, I'm going to go sit in the hot tub. And you get out of that hot tub and you jump back in the heated pool. Still felt ice cold, right? I'm sure you remember that feeling when you would go from the pool and you're like, this is perfect temperature. Then you go to the hot tub and then you jump back in the pool and you're like, whew. This is ice cold. And we were like 9 years old trying to comprehend how temperature works.
Actually, Justin, a little story time with nephew Brenden over here. You're gonna laugh. My brothers and I actually lived like a kid a little bit. We were in Mexico, and they had hot tubs and pools, and
The combo?
kind of like we were real close to each other. And in the afternoons, because it was Mexico during the rainy season, it would get cloudy and it wouldn't be quite as warm at 4 o'clock before the sunset. And we definitely did the whole jump in the pool, get freezing, run to the hot tub, then go jump in the pool.
Yeah.
Just to, you're great way to get the blood flowing, Justin. I'll tell you that much. You're never more awake than in that moment.
Now, you were doing it on purpose.
Yes.
When we were kids, we were doing it on accident, thinking like, oh, yeah, boy, this hot tub clearly hotter, but I'm going to jump in the pool. I remember it's heated. Nope, it still feels ice cold. So, all that being said, the bar for the Blazers is a little low this year, right? Because it's essentially, we would like these guys to try hard, play hard, give a little effort. And over these past 7 games in this losing streak before last night's game, I'm watching and it's like, the boys are playing hard, right? They're dealing with some injuries, right? Jeremy Grant was out for a little bit of time. Obviously, Ant came back, Brogdon with the hamstring. And like I've been saying for, the last couple of months, this entire season, this is a soft tank. No, like Shaden got a little, what did he get last night? Is it a right knee, I think? I think so. Anyways, played 8 minutes. But if there is any bit of discomfort for any rotational player on this team, it's like, you sit down and you get healthy because we are not going to push it with regard to injuries. We got a very young team. We still haven't figured out who we're building this team around.
It was early. He only played 8 minutes.
Yeah. So he didn't play. And I remember I announced it that he's not coming back in the second half. I forgot what the injury was. I was too pumped up for the win against the Suns because you know what? Wins are going to be maybe few and far between this year, especially against a team like the Suns. Plus, I'm like, Kevin Durant's just a walking bucket, which I want to talk about.
Even still, Justin.
I know I want to talk about Kevin Durant later on in the program because it feels good to kind of appreciate Kevin Durant after a game like last night, plus when your team gets a win.
What's an adductor?
I don't.
That's Shaden's injury, right? Adductor soreness.
Is that a core injury? I don't know.
Is my health and fitness guru?
Normally, I'm very good at this stuff because I took anatomy and physiology. It was one of the cheater science classes that we could take when you were a jock in college. And so you're like, all right, well, you need a science, chemistry. No.
Yeah, so it's on both sides, both left and right muscle on the leg. It's below your pelvis, and it pulls your thighs together and rotates your upper leg inwards. So if you were to kind of swing your
a hip. So he's got a sore hip.
Yeah,
got it.
So better than a knee.
Better than a knee.
I don't want to hear knee. No knee.
Probably better than a core injury. Those core injuries can be nasty.
Or even the shoulder injury he had when he was a rook.
So I forgot about that. So adductor hip. So you got a sore right hip. Got it.
Who created like that, Justin? Like I don't know if an adductor muscle makes the most sense to like that. There's no relatability with that.
I don't know who named the muscles.
I know.
I don't know who named them. I don't know if there was
the Greeks.
I don't know if there was a committee in charge.
I mean Achilles, probably the Greeks.
Some of them make a ton of sense, right? Bicep. There's 2 of them, right? Boom. Tricep. There's 3, right? 1, 2, 3. Bicep 2, tricep 3. Deltoid. It's shaped like a triangle, a delta. Boom. Forearm muscle. You know what that's called? Extensor carpi radius longus. See, I told you I took anatomy and physiology. Makes no sense whatsoever. An extensor is what it's. Bicep makes sense. It's the number. Tricep. Deltoid. I don't know about traps. I don't know how those got the name, but trapezius, I believe, is what it is called. I'm sure there's some sort of trapezoid thing there, trapezius. And then there's, again, quad. Quad makes sense. There's 4 of them there, right? It's called a quadricep. Calf.
Gluteus maximus? I don't know about that.
Yeah, and then gluteus. Who's the guy they didn't like named Gluteus?
So they're like, we're going to call you a rear end of a human
I don't
being.
know if this is true, and I might be just making stuff up, but you know what? Welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It is the week of Christmas, if you couldn't tell. It's a ghost town here. It's probably a ghost town where you're working. Do you think like there was a committee of dudes in Greece sitting around naming muscles, right? And they're like chiseling like the ting, 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 ting. They're like chiseling all the statues, and they're like, all right, there's The bicep is 2 of them. Let's call it that. Quadricep, 4. You know who I don't like? Gluteus. I don't like that guy. That guy ruins every party, right? He shows up, doesn't bring any wine. He eats all our grapes. He eats all our grapes, hits on all of our wives, and then just bounce. I don't like that Gluteus guy. We shall name the butt muscle after Gluteus.
Oh, I love it. And actually,
Would this be hilarious if, like, that's how the name, like, he is just, that guy is, he's an ass, right? So guess what?
Yeah.
Backside, gluteus, and not only is he an ass, but he to the max. He is a gluteus maximus is what we shall call that muscle till the end of time. Till the end of time, we call it the gluteus maximus. Then old Gluteus is sitting there going like, really, guys? You had to name the butt muscle after me forever? Like
I think it holds water, Justin, because
I don't know enough Greek history. I learned a lot when I was in Greece, but I was also having a lot of fun in Greece as well.
I always love it when an assumption holds up. And yes, a quick Google does reveal that the Romans and Greeks were most of the people who started to name muscles. Again, it's really simple, folks.
But I don't think they came up with adductor. That feels very English.
It's a good question. They say most all muscles have Latin, Greek, or Roman basis, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, like around the 1500s is when they really got more like names that we talk about now. But nevertheless, Justin, like again, I look at it and go, well, someone must have been Greek because otherwise the back of your ankle is not called Achilles.
Well, yeah, that one.
That's, I mean, about as easy as it gets.
Achilles, right? Talk about like getting something named after your biggest L of all time. You know what I mean?
If you believe the fables.
Well, I mean, how could... I mean, we don't just sit around and call it the Achilles tendon forever.
Hey,
if it wasn't true.
Hey, I learned about it in school, Justin. We called it Greek mythology for a reason.
Could you imagine, like, Achilles is just sitting there going, like, you know, I won a lot. Like, I'm kind of, like, I'm a dynasty here. Like, it was because
I'm a dynasty.
It was because of me that old Agamemnon pretty much took over the entire Aegean. I was the guy he was Phil Jackson. I'm Michael Jordan here.
Sure, watch Troy. He was.
Okay. Yeah, that's how I base all this. And
Great
then, like,
movie.
I have a friend who is Greek, and it was like, yeah, that movie is not even close. And I'm like, I don't care, don't want to know.
Why did you have to ruin it for me?
Yeah, but Achilles is sitting there going like, I am crushing it. And just like the biggest L he ever took, right? Took an arrow to the old Achilles tendon. And it was like, yep, now you're done, and we shall call it that forever. It's like, really? It's like, think about, like, the biggest loss of your career, just that's what you're known for. It's like, I won a lot. Anywho. No wonder why this is the best radio show in all the Portland metro area.
I was going to say, folks, Justin and I did have an all-time great show prep today. So I think it's going to be a fantastic day.
And I mean, it's clearly coming into, the prep is clearly showing what we're talking about because we started to talk about the Blazers, and then we got into talking about the names of muscles, and then I started making up stories of how they got the names in ancient Greece. But all that being said, needed that win, Blazers. Needed it. That one. But like, I'm going to wrap this up here soon. Trying to stay on time here. The point with the whole hot tub pool thing is like, we watched the tank for 2 years, right? We watched the tank for 2 years where it was like there was kind of some effort, but it was clearly an effort to try to lose. Now they are trying to win. And I don't know if it's just, if the bar is so low, I don't know if like you're just used to the hot tub, so you jump in the pool. But like, you watch these games over the last couple of weeks and you're like, I see it. It's there. It's right. It's so close. And then see kind of all be put together and, like, put a run on, withstand the run from Phoenix, withstand a big, 40-plus night from Kevin Durant, and pull out a victory? Needed that one. Needed that one right there. Something to build on, all right? Something to build on. It's not about wins and losses, but you know what? Every once in a while, you got to get a dub in the win column to be able to kind of sell, like, yeah, it's working, guys. It's a nice win for the boys. We'll continue to talk about the Blazers. It is National Signing. I have questions because signing day has changed, and it's still pretty. This whole NIL stuff is still pretty hush-hush. So I have some questions that I'm going to ask out loud. Brenden and I will hypothesize upon that coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. So we're about, a week and a half away from New Year's Day, which is going to have New Year's Day bowls. And other than two teams, it shall be the end of the college football season. A season that started way back on Labor Day. And, man, what a ride. What a ride we went on this college football season. But I would say that, like, the theme, other than change, constant change, or maybe the end of an era, one of the things that has happened more often this year than maybe any other year that I can remember in college football is people saying the quiet part out loud. Because we're in a weird spot right now, which is it's okay to pay the players, but we have a bunch of coaches and a bunch of ADs and a bunch of fans who kind of feel like is it okay to talk about? Right? We know the players are getting paid. We know that. We know that NIL is in our lives, and we know that these guys are cashing checks. And you know what? I'm not the biggest fan as a concept. Again, I go back to 2019. Was college football really that broken? It wasn't, but that ship has sailed. So good for the kids. Good for the players. You get your money, right? So we know that NIL is a thing. And we know that NIL is obviously a huge thing with regard to what is going on today, which is National Signing Day. Now, we have seen time and time again, back in the before times, before NIL was part of college football, that you would see what they call in the recruiting world as a flip. And they call it in other things too. But in the recruiting world, I flipped him, right? It's a verb. And usually, if a team like, I don't know, Alabama or USC or Ohio State or Michigan or even Oregon for that matter has a player who is committed to them, flip at the last minute to, I don't know, let's say Arizona. No offense to Arizona, but like to Arizona, to Purdue, to Ole Miss, right, to South Carolina. You get like these blue bloods, and they would have these guys, and then the last minute, like, I'm actually changing my mind. I'm flipping. I'm signing with South Carolina. Usually, most of the fan bases go, they bought him, right? They bought him. Well, now you can. Now you can just buy guys. And there's also a lot of people, and they might not be wrong. Brenden kind of implied this yesterday. I'm not saying you were wrong, but there's a lot of people going like, how did Oregon get Dylan Gabriel and Dante Moore in the transfer portal? Like how? How did they do it? They're like, well, they bought them. And maybe they did. Maybe there's probably other circumstances too.
There's not a negative connotation with that anymore, though, Justin.
And that's kind of what I was trying to say at the beginning. It's
fine.
It still feels wrong. It's like, all right, how do I put? First off, any kids out there who's listening to the show, thank you. Appreciate it. Like to keep up with the youth. Check the fit. Isn't that what they say? You go on YouTube, check the fit. But like, all right, there was one day you are 19 or 20 and you got to sneak beers. You just do. You got to sneak beers. You got to get somebody to buy them for you. You got to keep, and then you turn 21 and all of a sudden, boom, you can go to the store and you can buy beers. And it feels weird. And then you get used to it, and then you maybe buy too many, and you party too much, and then you end up being a morning show host instead of a scholar. But do you know what I mean? It's like for a whole time you were like, we got to get a plant, we got to get a guy. Kevin's brother, he'll buy us a couple of beers. We just got to kick him down like some money, or like Dustin's got a fake ID. I'm not going to say his last name, but that was a real person. Dustin's got a fake ID, and there's that one place. That will take it. The regular store won't. But
right.
Like there's that one store that'll take it, and it's like that's when you're 19 and you're 20. Like that's. And by the way, kids, don't do it. Even though I saw like kids are drinking less.
I did see that too.
They're drinking less, which hey, you do you. More for me, but. But, you know, like, forever, it's like that's not forever, but for a chunk of time, you're like, all right, this is how you, and all of a sudden,
right.
But you're 21.
Right.
You just walk right in, and it feels weird, and it's like, this is cool, right? And they're like, yeah, you're just fine. You can do whatever you want. And I wonder, like with recruiting, for more than obviously just 2 years when you're trying to sneak beers after high school. Don't do it in high school, kids. For 100 years, college coaches, and I'm not naive enough to say like they were above board. No, they were sneaking money here and there. They were finding ways around it, and I'm pretty sure every college coach of any kind of success rate had some kind of system where it was like, hey, let me take care of this for you. Like a player would come and like, hey, I'm having financial problems. Hey, we got a guy. You can take care of it. And it was kind of under the table. And then NIL was like, well, now it's above board.
Right.
Now it's out there. And whereas in the past, a guy would flip from one school to the next, and it would be like, well, they bought him. They clearly bought him, right? Eric Dickerson shows up in a brand new Trans Am, and it's like, well, where did that come from?
It was negative. And, it's not just Oregon. Like, Justin, I know the majority of our listening audience are Beaver and Duck fans. And I'd say for Oregon State fans, you can be relatable to this too, Justin. Justin, don't, I'll ask you since you're unbiased.
I am not when it comes to Oregon, though.
Well, you're not an Oregon State fan. You're not looking at it through an Oregon State lens. And I can even say this. I think Damian Martinez loves Oregon State, Justin. Is he coming back next year if he's not getting a massive bag behind the scenes?
Some sort of compensation. Yeah.
And that's where it's like...
And I'm sure there's some hometown discounts, you know what I mean?
Sure, the Beavers can't go out, but can they get one or two guys and be like, hey, you're going to be our guy? It's just kind of the way it is now.
But this is what's fascinating to me, kind of continuing on this. We're still with the let's keep it secret mindset, right? I agree with you. Bo Nix got paid to come back to Oregon. Clear as day, he got paid to come back to Oregon. Michael Penix got paid to come back to Washington. And both of those guys probably love the idea of, hey, we get to play for this school that we love. We get to have a chance to win a championship, right? Because you go into the NFL, you're not going to win a championship anytime soon. And if you do, it's going to be as a backup, right? So it's like we have a chance to win a championship. We have a chance to do something special. Both of those guys had a chance to win a Heisman Trophy. But the drawback was always, yeah, but do you want to risk all of that money going into the NFL? Well, now you don't have to. And you can get that NIL money. And also on the flip side, because we're talking about recruiting, you get a guy like Dylan Gabriel who's just like, yeah, I'm hired gun. I'm up. Like, let's make a deal. I will work for you. You will work for me. We're in partnership here. I don't know if that's exactly the way NIL was supposed to be, but that's the way it is. I saw it coming, and I can also see into the future where it's going to get even worse. But let's remain positive for the time being. Here's where I'm curious. Is there going to be a point in time where we know the numbers? Is there going to be a point in time where, because like I said, this theme of college football this year is certain coaches saying the quiet part out loud. 3 examples. I'll bring this. Started with Deion Sanders. Say what you will about Deion Sanders, but he did what a lot of other coaches do, which is he came in and he cleaned house. Brenden, you were there in 2018. Jonathan Smith didn't officially clean house, but when it was clear that there were certain guys on that Oregon State team that were not Pac-12 caliber players, they didn't see the field.
It wasn't just players, Justin. Let's not get it twisted. The only coach who remained on was Jake Kukas. And probably because...
Shout out Douglas County.
Right, probably because he was Jonathan Smith's college teammate, right?
Hey,
so every single
won
other...
that 2000 Civil War.
Everybody else part of that Gary Anderson regime.
Well, and that...
Remember when they were All-In, Justin?
That normally happens. But I'm just saying, those players, that 2-10 season, Jonathan Smith did what a lot of coaches... I'm going young. I got to develop for the next 3 years. If you are a junior, I'm very sorry. You're not going to play a lot. You're just not. First off, you're not playing because you were 1-11 the year before.
Mountain West talent, but
yeah, it was. And it was like I talk about with the Blazers, a soft tank. That was kind of a soft cleaning house. Coaches have been doing it all the time when you take over these bad programs. Steve Sarkisian did it at Washington. He took over an 0-12. Let us not forget, Washington went 0-12.
He did.
He took over an 0-12, and guess what? The young guys played. I remember when Chris Peterson Chris Peterson took over at Washington. I forget who the quarterback was. Jake Browning wasn't the best quarterback at Washington, but he was the young quarterback at Washington. And Chris Peterson was like, yeah, he shall play as a freshman. We're going to win about 7 games, but he's going to learn how to play college. And then, boom, 3 years later, they're in the college football playoff. It worked out well. It happens all the time. The difference is nobody says it.
It was a big deal.
Deion Sanders came in and was like, yeah, we're cutting guys. He said it. He said the quiet part out loud. It was an absurd amount of roster turnover, but also you look at what Lincoln Riley did when he came into USC. He didn't talk about it, but he just went about his business and did it. There were a lot of players from those Clay Helton USC teams who were said without saying, you're not playing. And they had like 50 to 60% roster turnover, whereas Colorado was like 80. So there's one example. Deion Sanders came in and was like, yeah, I'm going to cut you guys. Sorry, we're going to play spring football. We're going to have a spring game. I'm going to have a cowboy hat, and I'm going to dance around. But at the end of that, we're going to have a meeting, and we're going to have like a 3-panel American Idol, and we're going to determine whether or not you stay here. And a lot of players got cut. And it stinks. And I don't like that college football has kind of become that, but coaches don't get fired for being good guys. They get fired for losing games. So there was that. Then there was a couple of weeks ago, Matt Rule at Nebraska, who, by the way, just got the #1 high school quarterback to commit to Nebraska. I don't know, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday. And Matt Rule came out and said the quiet part out loud. What did he say? $1.5 million bucks. That's how much quarterbacks run in these days. We all kind of assumed. I heard 1.6 for Bo Nix. I don't know. That's my sources. I don't have many sources left down in Eugene, but that one was a pretty good one, and it was like about 1.6. $1.5 million bucks for these quarterbacks. And if you can get a quarterback that can get you to a New Year's Six bowl and can get you to a conference championship, guess what? It's more than affordable for the amount of money that they are bringing in. And then, I don't know if you saw this yesterday, Brenden, but Chip Kelly was on the Pat McAfee show. And Chip Kelly, I don't know if he meant to do this. I'm sure he did, because everything Chip Kelly has ever said is calculated. And I've never heard the guy misspeak. But did you hear the number that UCLA is getting from the Big Ten next year? We've all speculated as to what it is going to be. $75 million. Chip Kelly said it on ESPN yesterday. Said the quiet part out loud, which was, why did UCLA go to the Big Ten? Why all this conference real? Because they're going from, I think currently right now, the Pac-12 teams make about $20 million in TV deals.
I thought it was like 25 or 30, no?
No, I think they were at 20. And remember, they got offered 30 from ESPN, turned it down because they wanted 50. But currently right now, they're getting...
What a joke.
Because ACC currently is getting 12. For the foreseeable future. But the numbers just exploded with the Big Ten. UCLA and USC, like, why did they leave? It's like $75 million a year. That's why. They're getting that free and clear. Now, the other rumors are that Oregon and Washington are getting in at a 50% rate. So, and the other rumors are that Fox is paying that 50%. So about $36.5 million for Oregon and Washington going to the Big Ten. But Chip Kelly kind of said the quiet part, $75 million. And then he said, this TV revenue should be shared amongst the players. I disagree, but is there ever going to be a day where we know the number? Hey, we are paying this, and would that be better or worse? Because we're still dealing with kids, right? I'm fairly certain Dante Moore, who started 5 games for UCLA, got beat out by Garbers, right? He's a good, talented player, but he's a kid. He's a true freshman. Not since Johnny Football have we seen an actual true freshman come in like Johnny Football, Maurice Clarett. Heck, those are the only 2 I can kind of think of off the top of my head. True freshman.
Was Johnny? He was a true?
Think so, because remember, the year before, Jameis Winston won the Heisman as a redshirt freshman. No redshirt freshman has ever won it, and then Johnny Football won it as a true freshman. I'm pretty sure I had that one right. And then obviously Maurice Clarett as a true freshman.
That was 10 years or 12 years ago now. So not to age ourselves, Justin.
Dude, I don't.
Or no, I apologize. He did redshirt in 11. He did, yeah. Redshirt in 11, and then played 12-13, left after his redshirt sophomore season.
All right. Well, then Maurice Clarett's the only one.
No, I mean, it's
who's come in and been an impact player on the national level as a true freshman.
Tebow? Or not because they had Chris Leak?
Tebow didn't start. He played in like a...
but they did use him a lot,
They used him at the goal line.
Like, yeah.
And he was kind of becoming it, but he wasn't Tebow mania until the next year. But the point...
Dare you say like someone like DeAnthony Thomas?
But even still, and those guys are going to pop, right? Like they're going to come in and it's like, oh, look at that guy. But he wasn't the focal point of that Oregon team. That was LaMichael James.
And he was a redshirt, yeah.
So I don't think DeAnthony redshirted, though. Did he?
Oh, he did not.
Yeah, I don't think LaMichael James did. But the whole point of bringing all this up is you're going to see a lot of guys flipping from one school to the other today. And you are going to see a lot of guys in the transfer portal who are probably committed to one school and then are going to say, like, but you recruited a guy at my position. Maybe I might reopen my recruitment because the transfer portal does not have a deadline today like National Letter of Intent Day does. And so I'm wondering, are we going to know the number? Are we ever going to know the amount of money? Oregon just got a transfer offensive lineman from Indiana. And it's a pretty big deal. He was one of the highest rated linemen in the transfer portal, went to Colorado, committed to Colorado, said, I'm playing for Dion. Did the whole Instagram post and everything, but he still had a trip to Oregon planned. So he took his trip to Oregon, and a lot of people figured, and they might not be wrong, but a lot of people figured, yeah, he went to Colorado. Colorado gave him a business plan, and then he went to Oregon, and they said, what's the number Colorado's got? Yeah, we can top that. We can top that. But it's so weird that we are all still guessing. Do you know what I mean? Like, we guessed that Oregon bought that guy away from Colorado, and maybe they did. Probably so. But, like, how much is it? How much is a starting left tackle worth on the transfer portal? How much is a high school five-star right tackle? How much is that guy worth? The market's not quite set yet. Are we ever going to get there? Because, like I said, Matt Rule just said the quiet part out loud. It's about $1.5 million. $1.5 million to be able to get yourself a quarterback. But nobody's talking about what the exact numbers are because we're still in this weird, it feels weird talking about paying players. No, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. And we're going to see a lot of guys flip today. We're going to see a lot of guys who are committed, but what's a commitment anymore? It wasn't much in the before times. Now where it's like, hey, yeah, I'm committed to Oklahoma, but hey, Texas, can you bump this up by $100K?
I mean,
because if you can, I'm yours.
What's the deal now? That it's still not like it was, but like I guess you're technically once you sign, you then are stuck. If like you could sign and then after you sign, I know you're then obligated to be there for at least the first academic term, but then you could just transfer again.
Yeah.
Right? Like someone could sign today with Oregon or Oregon State and go, I'm not really liking the winter in Oregon. Like, I'm
also right? The quarterback at Arizona State who signed with Florida,
right?
Because he thought he was getting $13 million. Turns out that was fugazi. That was the absolute fake out, didn't exist, into thin air, and he was like, yeah, I'm out. And I think the NCAA granted him a hardship, which is going to be another part of this. It's a whole crazy thing. We're going to go on campus with some college. There was a bowl game last night that made me feel incredibly old. Made me feel incredibly old. We'll tell you about that when we go on campus next. But before that, I do want to tell you about the good folks at DeBella. They were talking a lot about money, right? A lot about revenue. Hey, you want to save some money? How about 30%? 30% on your energy bills because it is getting chilly out there. And guess what? It's not going to stop once the new year rolls around. It's going to continue to get colder. It might even be colder than it was last year. Well, DeBella, who's the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers, they can take care of your roofing, your windows, and your sidings. And with those renovations, you can save money on your energy bill up to 30%. Or if your roof is leaking or maybe even just aging, you can get a free quote right now from DeVella. Windows, siding, as I mentioned, they can help with bath projects as well. Plus, they are the best in the biz. How do I know that? 15,000 five-star reviews on Google. 15,000 five-star reviews on Google for their work. And now is the perfect time to hook up with the good folks at DeBella because they're offering 0 down, no payments until 2025. That's on approved credit, but you heard me right. 0 down and no payments until 2025 on approved credit for your roofing, your siding, your windows, or your bath renovations. Get to debella.us for a free, no obligation appointment. And they can make updating your home this winter super easy. DeBella, they're the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. not that I could ever relate, but I had much more things in common with the players than any of the coaches. And there was a couple of players on Oregon that I knew. It was back when I had like actual real sources. But yeah, I was 25. I was 26. I was out and about. I could still go to Taylor's and not feel like a weirdo. People from Eugene know what I'm talking about. And then obviously as time goes along, you start to get like these points in life where you're like, oh boy, I'm getting old. And at first it starts with like you go to the college bar and you look around, you go like, yeah, I don't belong here. I definitely don't belong here anymore. I am not in college. I am not college age. I should not be in this place. And I also remember when like all of a sudden like, wait, I'm closer in age to the coaching staff than I am to the players. And then I remember when Oregon hired Scott Frost. Like, yeah, I remember when that guy played. It's like, oh boy, we're all getting a little bit. Boy, did I have a moment last night. Flipping around, watching sports last night. I was watching Jaws return, which, how about that? How about John Morant's return? Whew. Flair for the dramatic, comes back 36 points, game winner against New Orleans on the road.
Yeah.
How about that?
I had to separate for a minute, Justin. I think it's just maybe the fancy coffee I had this morning, but the way that rolled off your tongue, it sounded like I watched Jaws return. As in the fourth terrible Jaws movie.
Was that what it was called? Jaws Returns?
I think it was The Revenge. But whatever reason, just the way that you said Jaws, like it just... sorry, it kind of clicked for me there. But yeah.
John Morant's return.
Oh, it was big. Huge game winner last night, too.
Yeah. So I watched that. Obviously, I watched the Blazers. Was flipping around. And then I tune in. I tuned into the bowl game last night. I don't want to get this bowl game wrong.
I think this is bowl game I called attention to yesterday and said the name of it. I'm pretty sure.
Is this which one?
The Independence Bowl?
I do not believe this was the Independence Bowl. I believe come on, bowl game. This was the Frisco Bowl. That's right. Scooter's Coffee, which I don't know about, but maybe we'll try out some Scooter's Coffee. The Frisco Bowl featuring Texas San Antonio and Marshall. 35-17 victory. UTSA, they get the win. That's 9 wins on the season for the Roadrunners. Now, why on earth would I bring this up? Well, I will tell you why. On campus, right now, let's hit the music. Programming note, I thought this in my head. Haven't even told Brenden this yet, but we're back next week for a handful of days. We will continue to do On Campus in this segment. Then, new year, new segment. We make the flip. We'll still talk about college football a ton, but this segment will be dedicated to our NBA news and notes, a.k.a. Round Ball Rock. That will continue in 2024. Other segments on the chopping block. I got a pretty good idea of what's out and what is safe, but all that being said, why did I bring up UTSA versus Marshall? Well, because the quarterback situation for UTSA and Marshall. Brenden, did you see the quarterback matchup between the Roadrunners and the Thundering Herd?
I did not. I was going to ask you, based on the score, it looks to me like Marshall could have used a little Matthew McConaughey last night.
Well, they got a pretty decent performance from their quarterback. He was 15 of 33, so under 50%, but threw for 258 yards. UTSA's quarterback went for 250, 2 touchdowns, also threw 2 picks, though.
That name looks familiar.
It was Cole Pennington versus Owen McCown. Josh McCown's kid was playing against Chad Pennington's kid. I am old. I am officially old. Josh McCown, that guy.
That's awesome.
His kid, Owen McCown, threw for 2 touchdowns. Like I said, also threw for 2 picks.
Okay, they are both freshmen, Justin. So I don't feel too old yet.
I don't care. I don't care. Josh McCown was in the league what?
Like a year ago.
He was with the Texans 2 years ago. And, I mean, obviously, it's been a minute since Chad Pennington was...
4 years. He was with the Texans in COVID, 21.
Yeah.
So a couple years now.
But still, Josh McCown was like, he was just like... I felt like he was playing for the Browns like just a year ago. And then I looked at it, I was like, no, that was a long time
Chad Pennington's worse. He's been out of the league since longer. He's been out of the league since 2010.
But again, as a 44-year-old, Justin Myers flipping around going like, yeah, there's Josh McCown's kid playing against Chad Pennington's kid. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
what? Like, baseball has been the worst because all of like Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Dante Bichette Jr. and there's a couple others in there. Fernando Tatis Jr. And
How old will you be? And again, Justin, we'll see because now Dante Moore's there, so I'm curious. How old will you be when you see Achilles Smith Jr.? That would be the one
2025.
that would drive me just bonkers.
Now, he's committed. He's committed to 2025. I think he's going to be a senior in high school next year. But, yeah, Achilles Smith Jr. coming in. Whew. So, yeah, all that being said, that made me feel pretty old yesterday. All right, we're going to talk some more Blazers. John Morant came back at a game winner last night. Aaron Rodgers says, yeah, I tried to make it back, but it's not going to happen. Plus, we're mathematically limited from the playoffs. So a lot of stuff to dive into in hour number 2 next. 620 Rip City Radio.
from the Goldberg-Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg-Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Portland Trail Blazers snap a 7-game losing streak with a 109-104 victory over the Phoenix Suns. Way to go, boys. Needed that one. It was a flair for the dramatic. 22-point early deficit was erased, and the Blazers built up a fourth-quarter lead. Almost saw it completely collapse, but a couple of nice buckets at the end from Anthony Simons put the game away. Balanced scoring, Brenden loves that, overcomes the 66 combined points from Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. It is National Letter of Intent Day. Oregon and Oregon State will look to sign their 2024 classes out of high school, on top of transfer portal players flipping left and right. We will keep you updated on all the important signings for both Oregon and Oregon State. And friend of the program, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor, joins us in hour number 3. But hour number 2, it starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
20 minutes from now, we have got Make or Miss. 40 minutes from now, it is a Worldwide Wednesday. Will Worldwide Wednesday make the cut for 2024? We shall see. We don't know. Haven't made up my mind yet. You know what is definitely going to be around, not only on today's show, but on the 2024 and into the future, is the weird deep dives that we go down to. I mentioned, because John Morant came back last night. I am a fan of John Morant, not a fan of being flippant around firearms. Not a fan of that. Not a fan of assaulting anyone, for that matter, but especially the youth of our world. Even though we all like to smack a 17-year-old every once in a while, don't do it. But John Morant on a basketball court is, I think, one of the most entertaining things in all of sports, and I am a fan. So I root for the kid. I hope he has figured it out. Hopefully he has gone through his... he was kind of going through like a Justin Bieber phase, right? Remember cute Justin Bieber? Brenden, were you like middle school when like cute Justin Bieber, like baby, and like when he was with Ludacris and he had like the little swoopy hairdo?
Less so. I remember I was in college when Justin Bieber
When he threw his phase.
got into some bad things.
Yeah,
and
so you're probably high school.
and nearly died. Yeah.
So you're probably high school when it was
Yeah.
like still cute Justin Bieber, like heartthrob Justin Bieber.
See, back then I found him annoying. It wasn't until he got a little bit further down the line that I was like, okay, he's not baby anymore.
That's a good song, by the way.
When you're in middle school, it was not it, man.
Say
I'll
what
say
you
this.
will. That song slaps. Is that
Not
what,
as a
is that what the
12-year-old.
kids say? I'm looking at the YouTube. Like, is that what the kids say? I don't care if the kids say it or not. That song, it slaps. It still holds up. I'm a fan. But like, yeah, we saw like we've seen it so many times. It's always funny because like, look at what's happened to Bieber. And it's like, yeah, I've seen this a gajillion times. Somebody who is probably a little bit too young gets a little bit too famous. They get famous for one particular thing, right? Whether that was Justin Bieber, whether that was NSYNC, whether that was Britney Spears, right? Any of these kids, and you get famous, and then all of a sudden, you do what all of us wanted to do, where you go through a phase. Now, most of us, when we go through a phase, we'll, like, grow our hair out or something, or we'll, like, change our name. Like, my name can't be changed. Brendan's name can't be changed, but I'm sure, Brenden, you had a buddy who was Sammy for your entire life. It was like, I'm Samuel now. You know what I mean? Like, everybody had that friend. Like, they went through a phase. Like, hey, Maddie. No, I'm Matthew. Like, no, you're not. You're Maddie. I'm Matthew. Call me Matthew, please. Like, everybody did that. Or, like, you know.
It was funny to see when it didn't hit, like, again, quality Office reference in the show, when Andy comes back from anger management and he goes, I'm Drew now.
I'm Drew now, yeah.
And Jim goes, I'm not going to call you that. And that's kind of like the end of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh yeah, for sure. You and I can't change. Brenden and Justin don't really have many. I mean, guess I could call you Jay. You can call me B.
Yeah, I could be like, yeah, I'm Jay now.
Yeah, or I'm
J-A-Y, though. Like, I am not the initial J. Like, I'm Jay now. Call me that. Like,
nice.
I never tried to pull that off. Did do the trendy clothes. I did, like, again, every 90s trend I did. I did them all.
Not too long ago, I did the grow out your hair trend. So
I did.
It was fun. I don't regret it.
I did the grunge. I went grunge in 8th grade. I did, freshman year, I did the Eminem, like dudes dyeing your hair like platinum or whatever that bleach blonde color that Eminem did, right? Did that. Did I rock a popped Abercrombie collar? You're gold darn right I did. Double hoop earrings and a puka shell necklace. I did them all right? I did them all. Nothing to hide. I've tried to destroy a lot of that evidence, but there's some of it that's out there. It's not good. Did a lot of shopping at Abercrombie and American Eagle. Where was your spot? Or did you ever get into trendy clothes? Because you have since settled into the quarter zip. Like you wear a lot of the athleisure, which is good. Fits the job. But did you ever have a trendy clothes thing?
Yeah, not
Old Navy. Were you an Old Navy guy?
Yeah, I mean, it was I'm not gonna lie, most of my stuff I feel like came from like Penny's, Old Navy.
Did you guys have a Bon? The Bon Marché? Do you know what I'm talking about at all? Does this ring a bell at all? Was this just maybe a thing early in my life?
It must have been. We had like Hot Topic or
Hot Topic. So the Bon Marché, I think, became
or Zoomies. That was a big one. Yeah, Zoomies was a big one, man. You go get like a Zoomies shirt or.
Did you go to Buckle? Did you ever go to Buckle?
No. But if you went to Zoomies, you
Mr.
got
Rags. How about a Mr. Rags? Does that ring a bell at all?
No. If you like.
I'm old. We talk about how old the football players are. Like, I'm sure I'm naming off stores. You're like, yeah, those don't exist anymore, Justin.
But
Mr. Rags was the spot, let me tell you.
Yeah, like if you went to, I remember for instance, Justin, like it reminded me, like Zoomies was that because every kid I remember in Sherwood Middle School wanted to go because you could get a T-shirt, and then you get one of those little skateboards.
The finger skateboard.
Yes.
At Zoomies.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And people would play with those in class. Till the end of, I can't tell you how many of those were probably confiscated by Sherwood teachers.
Our things were slap wraps.
Yeah, I remember those.
Slap wrap, but like I was the heyday of the slap wrap, which again, you go back to like what constitutes a slap wrap. It's a thing. It's a metal. Like, it's almost a knife. It's not. It's like a thin thing of metal that's covered by very poorly covered by a little bit of fabric, and you hit yourself with it. So that it becomes a bracelet, and then, of course, you end up hitting other people with it. That's how you get it confiscated. But the slap wraps were kind of our fidget spinner, finger skateboard, laser pointer
Oh, I remember
thing.
when fidget spinners were a thing in college. My goodness. Wow.
But, like, well, because it's Christmas. Like, was there ever a time, like, I'm sure you probably always wanted video games, I would imagine, come Christmas time. You're a video game guy. I get it. But was there ever like a thing where you're like, I want like these clothes? Because there's a time when you're a kid and you're like, you get clothes for Christmas. It is lame. It is the worst. And RIP Grandma Jackie, she used to send clothes all the time. I was in 2nd grade. Grandma Jackie sent me a Ralph Lauren polo shirt. I was 8 years old. Now, as a grown adult, would have liked a Ralph Lauren polo shirt. As an 8-year-old, I'm like, what? Can't you just send me a Michael Jordan shirt? And so like, Grandma Jackie caught wind of it and then sent back a Michael Jordan shirt, which I then wore all the time. But, like, there's a time where you're like, oh, clothes, like, it's lame. And then, maybe it's because I always wanted to be trendy. Like, that's kind of my jam. I didn't pull it off well, but I wanted to. And, like, 7th grade, all I wanted, acid wash overalls. That's all I wanted. 7th grade.
I credit you.
It was the overall era, which lasted about 18 months. But, like, everybody had overall. Like, you went to school before Christmas break in 7th grade. I'm trying to think what that year was. I think 1992, right? 1992, you go to school, Christmas break, you leave, you come back January of 1993. I would venture to say 65% of my classmates at Winston Middle School came back in overalls. Like, we looked like we were working the trains with that many overalls in 1993. I mean, because that's what everybody wanted. That's like that was all anybody ever wanted. And you get the overalls, and you'd go one strap off because it looked awesome.
Yeah, like I remember.
You never had one of those things where you're like, I need some silver tab jeans, like I need like an Eddie Bauer fleece.
No, clothes was never really something that I was like I'll be.
Did you ever want like a jersey though, like a Dame jersey or something?
I'm trying to think. Like jerseys were cool. If you got to kind of take them to school, I remember like just from my experience, Justin. Like I want to say until like middle school, like most of my clothes were probably bought for me, and even still, probably still, mom was buying clothes. It just trendy was never like you said. It was more like I still remember the Christmas in 2007 when I unwrapped NCAA football with Reggie Bush on the cover. That was one of my...
Yeah, you take a victory lap on that one?
Oh, I remember telling mom and dad at that moment, why can't we leave grandma's house now and get home to play the PlayStation? Because Reggie Bush was on the cover, Justin.
Okay, I had this...
Like it was, like that, and, it shouldn't surprise anybody for who I am now, but like, your boy was obsessed with sports 24/7 all day, every day.
I get it.
Like jerseys, I got a Steven Jackson jersey. I got an Ocho Cinco jersey.
Probably a big deal.
Those were kind of cool. But that's kind of it.
What's funny, because you mentioned being at like grandma's house. Did you guys have Christmas more often at your house, or did you go somewhere?
The Slaughter family Christmas was always at grandma's house.
Really?
And then mom's side of the Christmas was Christmas Day at our house.
You opened presents on Christmas Eve?
Oh, yeah, because we split the family in half. Like, the entire dad's side of the family, grandma's Christmas Eve. Same thing this year. And Justin, I found, as you get older, and then you have, particularly like my sister, getting married and have even more, like, you have to then divide up Christmas Eve. Like,
sacrifices have to be made.
Yeah, so
sacrifices have to be made.
It's tough.
Now, obviously, I don't have children, but, like, our Christmas Day is we're going to be burning up I-5. Because here's the thing, like, first off, we are bribing our nieces and nephews essentially to like take care of us when we're old, please. So we're gonna bribe the nieces and nephews, and like, I grew up. You did not open presents until Christmas morning. Like, no, didn't matter. Like, oh no, and I know some people do like the pajamas, right? You open them up and you get the pajamas, and that's what you wear the next day. And but I was a strict crisp. And then I remember I went to with my buddy Aaron. I went to Christmas Eve at Aaron. Brenden, they opened all their presents on Christmas Eve. My mind was blown. I'm like, what are you going to do tomorrow? They're like, we'll get stockings tomorrow, but like everything, they just Christmas Eve. And I'm like, people live like this?
Yeah,
this is insanity.
Yeah, that's fascinating because, like, not like everything. Like, all the stuff that mom and dad would buy for us and our stockings and, that kind of stuff would still be Christmas morning. But, like, you go over to grandma's house, gifts from aunt and uncle, gifts from cousins. Like, that was all Christmas Eve. And even still now,
it was
still
Christmas.
holds up.
I could imagine, though, you open it up and it's NCAA football and you're sitting there at grandma's house, like, out.
Like, let's go.
We are out. Are we done here? Are we done? Like, can we wrap this up? Because
like, I was 11, and I can distinctively remember, Justin, getting home and mom and dad saying, "Nope, you gotta go to bed, and it'll be waiting for you in the morning." And I was like,
"Oh my goodness, what a
Yep, it was tough.
As if going to sleep on Christmas Eve wasn't tough enough,
right?
And then now you're like, I just want to play this video game.
It was, like I said, for that time, everyone, for Justin, I think you said it was Mortal Kombat or Street
Fighter 2.
That's right. Okay,
Street Fighter 2.
Everybody has their game.
That's my game.
NCAA, everything. Men's basketball, baseball, and football, when they made all three for a glorious 2-year window of 2006, 2007. That's pretty much all I did.
But yeah, so we're going to be going to 2 Christmases because here's the thing, like, we don't have kids, so like, you want to wake up in your own bed Christmas morning, right? I did a handful of, and I don't know, my mom might be listening, and she already knows this anyways, but like, the Christmases at like grandma's house were fine, but like, it's like me and my brother are asleep on a hide-a-bed, right, in a couch, and it's like, it's Christmas. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what time is it? Can we get up yet? No, we can't get up early because obviously it's not our house. We got to wait till everybody gets up, whereas when it's just your house, it was kind of a free-for-all. 7:30 was, I think, once 7:29, 7:30, let's go. We're up.
Time to roll.
Let's do it. It's like we're at grandma's house. We're on a hide-a-bed. I have to share the bed with my brother. It's Christmas Eve, so you're already kind of excited, but you're also like, it's like, just do it at your house. Couldn't, like.
Okay, so what was tougher? Because I know pretty sure you experienced this as a kid. Sleeping the night before Christmas or sleeping the night before you went to Disneyland. For me, I still remember the first time my sister and I went to Disneyland and my parents having to come in to the room and be like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We leave tomorrow. We're like, we're going to Disneyland. Like,
did you fly?
Yes.
Okay, so every Disneyland trip that I went as a kid was a drive. So we could sleep
drove
the night.
to a few, but
we could sleep the night before because, again, as I went back to the original segment, we're going to stop at a Motel 6 about halfway through. Like, yeah.
Makes sense.
Man, when you pull down and you see, like, you get into LA and then you get to Anaheim and you see that Disneyland, like, silhouette, and you're like, you're not even close to the parking lot, but you can see it. Whew. Oh, boy. All right. Real quick, let's do the big three. I think we've got, 11 days left in 2023? You got to start thinking about your resolutions now. Got to start thinking about, and maybe not even resolutions, but changes that you maybe want to make, maybe some things you want. I love Eminem, as I mentioned, back in my sophomore year of college. Did the Eminem Bleach Blonde. Wasn't proud of it, but I did it. Looked weird when the red hair grew out of the Bleach Blonde. But so I'm a fan. I'm a fan of late 90s, early 2000s Eminem. But Brenden, I think that music bed's gonna be gone by 2024. It just doesn't. I don't know if it fits the show. You know what I mean? It doesn't quite fit the show. I know it's a song that I'm a big fan of. I could actually probably sing the first verse. Won't do it. Not appropriate for radio. But that one might be gone. We might have to start rethinking some of the music. Start brainstorming, you and I, over these next couple of days. We got a couple of days off next for the big weekend. Right? Do a little brainstorming.
Ask me at the end of the week.
Yeah, you got a busy week. Maybe by next week. Maybe
after the
do a little brainstorming.
But yes, I'll be.
Any big news on the recruiting front right now?
No, pretty much everything as expected. But this and then the transfer portal. Like I've told everybody, talk to me in January. I'll have a lot more time come January 1. So,
but like, isn't it weird the expectations of like recruiting now? Because it used to be after wins, losses, it was like, where's your recruiting ranking? Like that was coaches could save a bad season. Jimbo Fisher did it, right? Jimbo Fisher 2 years ago, right? He had a bad season. And it was like, yeah, but he's got the number one recruiting class in the country. He's like, all right, well, we'll keep sticking around with Jimbo. And you could now, like, when you see, like, not just the amount of juniors and seniors that are transferring, but, like, true freshmen. Like, not just Dante Moore. Like, that, I kind of see what he was doing there. But Malachi Nelson, is that his name? USC, 5-star quarterback, went to USC, obviously was going to play behind Caleb Williams for a year. Caleb Williams is gone. He's not playing in the Holiday Bowl. He is on his way to the NFL and likely the number one overall pick. And this dude is just like, yeah, I'm leaving. I'm out. It's like, yeah, but you might play starting quarterback for USC in the Big Ten next year. Yeah. No, I'm not, because I'm out. And, like, you think about all the resources and all, like, and from a fan's perspective, right, I try not to get too high and not to get too low on recruiting, right, because while they are stars and they are rankings and they are numbers, they're also human beings. You know what I mean? Sometimes those human beings play well. Sometimes those human beings don't develop. Sometimes it's exactly what you got. But now, like, to get excited about, like, your recruiting ranking in 2023, soon to be 2024, it's like, what? 20% may see their junior year between transferring and between the portal and all, like, what a crazy time. But people get excited about it. I know Beaver's Edge, they're pumped up. All my Oregon recruiting Twitter algorithm, they're all fired up. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it. But right now is definitely time for Make or Miss. Here we go.
It bounces off the crossbar.
You know what I mean? Like, they built around Steph.
I would say
Paolo. There's your top 4 in the East. Minnesota has made the decision. We're building around Anthony Edwards. We are. Not Karl Anthony Towns, but Anthony Edwards. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jokic. Kings, don't know who they're building around. Either way. We have got Worldwide Wednesday. That's coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, as usual on this program, we are laser locked. I mean, as you could tell from the massive amount of focus on today's show, I mean, clearly the amount of homework that we have done and preparation for the show has been paying off, at least for the first hour and 48 minutes of this particular program. But every once in a while, we got to, venture outside of the norm, venture outside of our lane. Sometimes when you're on that freeway of sports, you got to take a little exit, right? Find something else to talk about, because obviously we are dedicated to talking about sports. Never mind what else happened on the show. And we have set aside this particular time to search the internet high and low to find some of the more interesting, fascinating, and intriguing stories around the globe, sometimes in our own backyard, though. We call it Worldwide Wednesday.
We searched far and wide, and we found the most random story you never heard. It's Worldwide Wednesday on RCM.
Today's Worldwide Wednesday takes us to the great state, or actually, it might be a commonwealth, of Virginia. I think Virginia is a commonwealth, along with Massachusetts and Kentucky, and I think there's one other commonwealth in there. Don't know what designates the difference between a commonwealth and a state, but regardless, Virginia is our story, and Jessica Vincent, who did like a lot of people do, not only this time of year, but just in general, went to the local Goodwill and was like, I need a vase. All right, I gotta spruce up the house a little bit. I got some flowers. I'll just go to Goodwill, see if there's a vase there, see if something that we can just kind of use. Don't need to spend a boatload of money. Let's just go look. And there was a vase there at the Goodwill, $3.99. What a deal! What a steal of a deal, right? Turns out that vase was a little bit more than $3.99, as according to this story, this is from the AP. That vase was apparently much, much, much more valuable than just the $4 she spent on it. As it turns out, it's a Murano vase, which, according to this article, is glass art with Murano glass. Murano is referred to the island in Venice that has been famous for its glass work since the 13th century. That's a long time ago.
That is a long time.
That's a long time ago, because we're in the 21st century now.
That's actually like Agamemnon times,
Yeah,
which is quite ironic. But
yeah,
yes.
buddy, we keep bringing it back to, they always say dudes think about the Roman Empire. It's like, or the Greek Empire on today's show, but, or just the movie Troy. Highly priced creations have included ornate crystal chandeliers, mirror frames, many of which adorn the aristocratic class all throughout Europe. And so it turns out Murano glass is massively valuable. The vase that was produced by the renowned glass company Vanini is and designed by Italian architect Carlo Scarpa, pretty sure I butchered that one, died back in 1978. Ended up in a Virginia Goodwill, sitting on the shelf amongst things like measuring spoons. And once a little bit of research was done, the woman who bought this vase put it up at Wright Auction House in Chicago, and it sold for $107,000. Oh my goodness gracious, $107,000. Can I tell you, I love these stories. They're all over my algorithm. Antiques Roadshow, I saw one of the Antiques Roadshow where this guy was like a Vietnam vet, and he was like, yeah, I bought this Rolex back when in Vietnam, and the guy was like, yeah, that's like an opal too, blah, blah, that's worth like $1 gajillion. And the dude almost fell over. I love the Pawn Stars. You watch the Pawn Stars, and you see guys like, hey, this coin that you won in a poker game, turns out there's like 4 of these in the world. So yeah, a $3.99 vase at the Goodwill just went for $107,000 for auction.
That's insane. I mean, to know that something you picked up for $3.99 at a Goodwill, I have a feeling that like Jonathan Smith's clothes at the Corvallis Goodwill.
You don't think they're going to go?
No.
You know, there's going to be like some, like, at one point, maybe hold on to those?
I don't think he's the next Jimmy Johnson, so I think we're good.
Do you have anything you're holding on to, like memorabilia-wise?
100%.
Oh, it's your what are those little eyeball things?
The Funko Pops.
Those things.
So, again.
How you feeling about those?
I think one day, I try to pick up, historical figures and things. I have.
And they make historical figure Funko Pops?
Oh, yeah. I have like.
I don't know the world of Funko
I have
Pops.
like musicians. I have,
Got Bieber?
No, but like I have All In Sync. I have
T-Swift?
Post Malone.
You got T-Swift?
No, I don't know if they've made one yet, actually. She might be too big for Funko to be licensed.
Probably.
But like stuff like that, just like little knick-knack things from pop culture.
I can only imagine the baseball cards I threw away.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the baseball cards I threw away. I got some Palomalo rookie cards still like hanging
That's
around.
nice. Yeah.
They are not stored well.
My siblings have binders and binders and binders of baseball and football.
I
So you're
had
saying
'em.
never get rid of them?
I had them, and then they're gone. Like, they're out. All right. $107,000. Way to go.
Well,
Way to go, Virginia.
that's a win, Justin.
We'll go check out the Goodwill next to my house.
kidding.
See what they got there. Maybe they got some Murano glass. All right. We have
No
got
beaver gear, though.
Tyson Alger coming up in hour number 3. We got an RCM mailbag. Blazers with a nice win. Hour 3 next. 620 Rip City Radio.
from the Goldberg-Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg-Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Portland Trailblazers snapped a 7-game losing streak last night as they get a victory 109-104 over the Phoenix Suns, overcoming an early 22-point deficit to come back in the ball game and get the win. Balanced scoring from the Blazers, led by Anthony Simons, overcomes 66 combined points from Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. But the Blazers get the win, needed the win. Hey, way to go, boys. It is currently in the middle of it right now, in the heart. National Signing Day in college football as Oregon and Oregon State look to sign their 2024 class. And coming up in approximately 20 minutes, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor, Tyson Alger joins the big show. But we've also got an RCM mailbag. We got some more Blazer talk. Tribute video last night for 3 former Blazers. Hour 3 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. The most transparent show in Portland is Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers, here on 620 Rip City Radio.
Yeah, so the Blazers get a nice win last night. Needed it. It's going to be interesting to see how this team moves and evolves throughout the season. Shaedon Sharpe goes down with a bit of an injury, but I'm imagining a lot of that is precautionary. It's kind of funny because usually a team that is second to last and is 7-19 would be, I don't know, irritating to the fan base. And I know there's some Portland fans out there that are, well, they're irritated and are frustrated because it's like, it's supposed to be year 3 of a rebuild, but it's not because the rebuild was kind of haltered and paused because the hemming and the hawing over what to do with Damian Lillard. And the complete rebuild didn't really start until this summer. But such a juxtaposition, Brenden. An insanely likable bad team. I mean, not bad, but an insanely likable 7-19 team. Because, again, I don't know how to evaluate this team. I can see the talent there. I can see some of the things like if they could ever get to be consistent, which is what they're doing, right? This is how you learn consistency, by going, night in and night out, shaking off of a tough loss against Golden State where maybe you thought you had a massive comeback at the end, and then you come back from down 22 to the Phoenix Suns where Kevin Durant is going ballistic. And you get a nice win. So hopefully this is kind of how you learn and you grow. But maybe it's just because I am filled with Christmas cheer. This is a 7-19 team I kind of like. Even when they make dumb mistakes, and they've made a couple. Even when they make dumb mistakes, it's like, is it because there's no expectations on this team? Is that why they're likable? Because if there were expectations, if we expected them to make the playoffs, which I don't know if any realistic Blazer fan did coming into the season, and if you did, check your temperature because you shouldn't have. No realistic Blazer fan ever had this team making a playoff run. Is it the lack of expectations that ups the likability? Because I like the pieces of this team. Don't know if they're quite coming together like a recipe, but I like the ingredients. If I could make a food analogy, because it's getting towards the third hour. We get a little hungry in the third hour. I like DeAndre Ayton. I like the fact that last night wasn't his night shooting the ball. You know what? Grab some rebounds. That's so refreshing. For a big man, it's like, yeah, it's not your night tonight. You've missed some shots. The rim's a little smaller tonight for you for whatever reason. So, grab some boards. Play some D. I love Malcolm Brogdon. You know what I mean? Just like tough, gritty veteran. I love Malcolm Brogdon. Talked about Anthony Simons last hour and kind of how I feel about how Anthony Simons right now, I believe, is the best player on this team. Can see some of the potential with the young guy. I like this team. They're also 7-19. But we're going to live in the moment right now. And the moment was a nice win over the Phoenix Suns. And pregame, don't know if you caught this, but the X app, will, of course, will let us all know. Nurk, Nasir Little, and the pride of Troutdale, Drew Eubanks, got a little tribute video last night. How about that? Way to go. Way to go, the Blazers. Little tribute video for all three of those guys.
Okay, I was gonna say what happened to Keon Johnson? But he already
Is he not on the Suns anymore?
No, the Suns waived him and he's a Brooklyn Net now.
Does Keon Johnson get a tribute
He
video?
should. I mean, at this point, dude put up more bricks. He could have built a lot of houses in Portland.
He shot so many times. He would come into the game.
34% from the field, Justin. That seems about accurate.
Credit where credit's due, though. Like, he was undeterred.
Yes, he was.
You know, you do 34% of anything and you just keep going. Like, that's determination. But yeah,
we don't want to talk about the fact that Keon Johnson was like the main piece in the Norman Powell and Robert Covington trade, and he's not here anymore.
It is funny. Like, what are we ultimately going to like? All right, Nasir Little. I've been lucky enough to interview him a couple of times. He's incredibly nice. Drew Eubanks, local boy, done good, right? Went to Oregon State. And,
he actually played for the team. He didn't make up an injury and not play. So,
yes,
that's
as
important.
opposed to the
That's important.
I don't know if he made up an injury, but definitely was not interested in healing.
Not really jiving with the organization, I would say, probably. And,
sitting and pouting his way out of town, ultimately getting what he wants. Yeah, got that.
Notice how he didn't play the other night when they played in Portland. Just throwing that out there.
All right, let's get back to the positive, though. All right, so I love Drew Eubanks. He was kind of a breath of fresh air in 2 tanking seasons, right? Kind of fun to watch. The Troutdale hammer.
The chainsaw.
The chainsaw. Thank goodness that's gone. But you got to love Drew Eubanks, right? It's got to feel good. You got a kid growing up in Troutdale, getting to play a couple of seasons, even if they were tanking seasons for the Blazers. You got the uniform. Your parents could drive to the game and then drive to their home. So it was nice to see him get a little tribute. Nasir Little, former first-round pick for the Blazers, still my favorite. One of my most surprising interview answers that I ever got. Real quick, story time with Uncle Justin. I've told this a couple of times. After Nasir Little was drafted, what was he drafted, like 23rd, 24th overall, I want to say? Help me.
Yep, 25th.
25th overall, and he was a guy that thought we're going to go in the top 10.
He was the 247 and Rival Sports number 2 player in the class, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then he went to North Carolina and didn't shoot very well in college, but was athletic and all that stuff. And so I remember the Blazers, he fell all the way to 25, and that was like a big pickup for the Blazers back then, who were drafting at number 25. So yes, Brenden.
The list of players that were also, it's just very interesting. Nasir Little was obviously on that list, but
who's the number 1 recruit in that class?
Let's see here. Just want to make sure I have the year right. DeAndre Ayton's in that mix.
Yep.
Let's see. I think I may have clicked the. Clicked into a different year.
It happened.
But Michael Porter, Marvin Bagley, Mo Bamba, Jaren Jackson. I mean, guys that are all in the NBA now.
So I was that summer, I was doing The Bridge. Shout out to The Bridge, RIP. It was a good show. And that summer, Terry Stotts was awarded the Dr. Jack Ramsey Award for State of Oregon Coach of the Year, right? All of the sports. It was the Oregon Sports Awards. We were doing a whole presentation from high school kids all the way up to professionals. And Terry Stotts wins the Dr. Jack Ramsey Coach of the Year Award because that was coming off of the run to the Western Conference Finals in 2019. And the Blazers go into that draft, and they draft Nasir Little at 25, like a week before. And, of course, I'm interviewing Terry Stotts on The Bridge, and I was like, Coach, congratulations. You won the award. And he talked about how much Dr. Jack meant to him and the history and putting on the jacket and all that stuff. And then I was like, all right, hey, draft pick. This is a week after the Blazers drafted Nasir Little. And I go, hey, how How did that go down? With Nasir Little, you got at 25. A guy who was maybe projected in top 10, and kind of fell to 25. And he thoughts on that, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't do the draft. GM does that." And I'm like, "Okay."
Real quick.
Like usually a coach would be like very excited. It's a young talent, and Terry Stotts was basically like, "Yeah, he ain't gonna play." We were just in the Western Conference Finals. We picked up a sixth man out of the ACC in the first round. Yeah, he went to North Carolina, but he was a sixth man. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't do any of that draft stuff. That's the GM's job." I'm like, okay.
Yeah, even
might be trouble in paradise.
And it's a bummer for I hope he kind of pops. I hope he doesn't reach like superstar level because that'd be unfortunate. But Nasir Little was like
he had
that.
a mask last night too.
Interesting.
I don't know what he's got. Broken
maybe
nose
or something. But his talent, Justin, was off the charts. Like you said, it didn't click for him at North Carolina. I think playing under Roy Williams was just not a good fit for him. And he obviously had.
He was their sixth man, and I think they were pretty guard heavy at the time.
Right.
And
then he gets to Portland. He has the collapse in the bubble. He has some injuries, some different things.
He lose like 20 pounds or something like that.
That too. But going back, I got the class wrong, Justin. But
he got like OG COVID. He didn't not like the Delta that you got or the Omicron that I got. I think he got the OG.
Yeah. But no, Justin. The
I hope
fine,
he didn't violate HIPAA right there.
The fine folks at the recruiting, just to show you couldn't believe this now if you told me. Nasir Little was the number 2 player in that class, ahead of Cam Reddish, who was a Blazer last year.
Yep.
Bol, who's still in the league. And number 5, Zion Williams.
Zion was 5?
He was. Anthony Simons checks in at number 10 on that class. Kevin Porter, Darius Garland, whole bunch of guys that are in the NBA now. But to think that at one point, analysts thought that Nasir Little was going to be a better prospect than Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
That's pretty telling.
Hey, and it's signing day today. Recruiting, it's not exact science, as they say.
True.
Real quick before we get out of here, because I wanted to get to this point. I got a little bit distracted, a little bit long-winded, but you know what? Welcome to the show.
It's my fault, too, looking back at Nasir Little's draft class.
You love doing that. That's one of your favorite things to do. How are we going to remember Nurk? It's a complicated relationship that the Blazer fans had with Nurk because, we got the sign here, right, that Burkhart has taken over and he's got Burke fever.
Which I don't blame him.
I got Burkhart. He's wagging, man. But got to worry about that gas gauge, but, pay attention to that gas gauge. But
love you, Chris.
But, Nurk fever was a thing,
I was there.
I was at another place. They asked me to politely leave, but I was at another radio station in town. But I remember, obviously it's tough because we can all remember the Nurk fouling himself out of the Denver series, right? And led to the firing of Terry Stotts, amongst other things. But, he fouled himself out of a game. It's like, you have 5 fouls. Let's be careful. We're still in this one. And he just instantly goes up, fouls, walks to the bench after the game. I think Mike Richmond asked, do you still want to be here? And he's like, I don't know. And depends on the situation. And then the new coach came in, and then he kind of got disgruntled again. And there was a whole, it's a comp. But, there were some good times. The broken leg thing was crazy, right? And then remember when he showed up, even though remember when Nurk said in that game against Oklahoma City, he was like, I was sitting at home watching the game and I felt like the team needed me. And I was like, I don't know where you live, Nurk, but there's no way you were making it to the arena in time. You were already there. But, I
still have that clip, Justin, the unedited version that Kevin Lamar and the great crew at Blazer Broadcasting did not get the bleep when Nurk said the whole schmackaroo. And, you think about that moment when
the whole schmackaroo.
If he didn't come to that game, did they get the energy to come back and beat them that night? That part's
wait, that was the Denver 4 overtime game, right?
No.
Or was that
that was the Russell Westbrook right? Yeah, that was still the Thunder when he came down to Moda Center. He said he came down there from his house, and again, I don't know where he lives, but
The timeline.
I mean,
didn't
I
add
would
up.
say that he's memorable in this sense, Justin. I had to look back and see kind of what the reality was before the Blazers traded for Nurkic in, I think it was February of 17. At the time, they were 18 and 20. About 5 games over. They were about 6-7 games under 500, give or take. And they pulled off a crazy move. They traded Mason Plumlee, a fan favorite. Who did not love Mason your face around here?
Yeah.
But
it was looked to be a salary dump.
right. And then I think the fact that he did kind of galvanize them, and Justin, maybe a bit of a good, bit of a bad, if they don't get Nurk, by just nature, do they slide into like a rebuild back then?
Oh yeah, back in 2017.
Right?
Potentially.
Right? And does that impact who you could have paired Dame with, all the butterfly effects? But like, that's where I think it's still kind of positive. He helped give the Blazers some good years. You know, you don't get to the Western Conference Finals. You don't get to the 3 seed without what he played, all that, so on and so forth.
All right, we have got Tyson Alger waiting on deck. I-5 Corridor joins us next here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, very excited to welcome back to the big show from the I-5 corridor. Friend of the program, especially on a National Signing Day. Even though it doesn't quite have the panache it used to, it's still signing day, and there's still going to be massive amounts of grown adult men on a particular app very angry and happy at 17 and 18-year-old kids' decision on where to go to school. It is a tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, but joining us now from the I-5 corridor, Tyson Alger back on the big show. Good morning, Tyson. How we doing?
You know, the thing that I've really enjoyed about the early signing period is, everything that you just described. I really just feel gets me into the spirit of Christmas. Just a week in there of just anger and yelling and just wildly unrealistic projections for high school athletes. It's the best time of the year.
It really is. Like, I mentioned this yesterday with another topic, but when you come to watching Hallmark Christmas movies, you have to suspend disbelief, right? There's no way you're going to go into a tiny little town in Vermont, your car is going to break down, you're going to fall in love with an innkeeper, and then you're going to live there the rest of your life, right? You suspend disbelief when you watch the Hallmark Christmas movies, and it's almost like that with recruiting, right? Because reality tells you 60% of these guys are not going to be are not going to be around by their junior year now with the transfer portal, let alone their senior year. But for one particular day every year, you get to kind of just live in the hope that every one of these 4-stars and 5-star guys are going to live up to it. 3-star guys are going to develop and pop, and boom, national championships await, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is going to be the best defensive line in Oregon history in a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
The kid they just took from Ohio State, that's going to be another – he would have been a star at Ohio State. It's funny how much this has changed over just the last couple of years. I mean, obviously they brought in the early signing period, but then with the transfer portal, too, it's not that, the attention to signing day and recruiting has changed at all, but it's been – I feel like it's less concentrated here on this one day because it's just like you said, I think it's always been known that recruiting and signing day is a bit of a pipe dream anyways. The chances of even back in the day of really good classes panning out, it was few and far between, the guys that would actually hit. But now it's how many of these guys are going to be Ducks in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? It's just fascinating with the transfer portal and how it's still such this industry, and especially signing day, and then if you look across the 247 and on 3, this is such a big day in college football and in the recruiting media world, but it's also probably the least guaranteed and informed day that we have of the year, just because who knows how these kids end up.
While we still have signing day, Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us. While we still have signing day for the foreseeable future, let's talk about some of my favorite parts of it. And I'm curious, what are your favorite parts? There is the message board rumor mill, which I love, right? Again, think about the X app is one thing, but the message board rumor mills of this guy has flown in and his girlfriend wants to go here and things like that. Or the my favorite trope, which is every fan base has got the one 2-star or 3-star guy, whether that's Patrick Chung or Justin Herbert for the Oregon Ducks, who then ultimately became one of the greatest of all time. And when your numbers aren't quite exactly where you want them to be, constantly bringing up those guys year in and year out.
Well, Marcus Mariota was only a 3-star.
Exactly right. He was a backup quarterback, and then Mark Helfrich went to Hawaii and just saw him.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think my favorite tradition though is the split in the press conference room of the media who want the coach to go through every single player one by one and give the full 2-minute spiel on it, and then the other half who are just angry
that they're there that day.
Yeah, that they're there that day. It is funny to wake up. I'm an early enough riser. I was up at 6 a.m. this morning, and I know that's not early for you in the radio world, but I love that that's the earliest day that you see your colleagues tweeting. I pulled up the X app, and I'm seeing Preem and Scopel and Crepia, and it's 5:45 in the morning. It's good work, boys. Sorry, go ahead.
Wait, I'm right there with you. Way to go, boys. Here's what I find. You mentioned it, and it sparked a memory because I was there in Eugene for the transition from Mike Bellotti to Chip Kelly. Now, back then, because I'm old, Tyson, that was the February, and it was one signing day, and that was it. There was no early signing period. There was no transfer portal. It was the February. It was after the bowl game. It was before spring practice. And like you said, then there was a press conference, and there was a handful of football beat writers who were like not that stoked to be there because their season was long enough. And then there is, the people who follow the recruiting, which is a service and is an industry, who like this is their Super Bowl, right? And Bellotti was a genius. He was a genius because he would come in and start right away. Hey, this guy, we like his size, he would run down and he fed the beast. Then I saw when Chip Kelly came in, and Tyson, let me tell you, he was not at all stoked about going player by player. And as a matter of fact, that first year when Chip Kelly had the recruiting day press conference, had to be asked twice to run through the list.
Well, it's just so funny to compare that then to the coach that I covered the longest in Eugene was Mario Cristobal, and that was his Super Bowl. He obviously won some games at Oregon, but signing day was, we even saw it with our numbers on The Athletic. Like, nothing did better than Oregon signing day stuff. And that was just like a boxer in his home ring, a guy who was just happy to be in front of the mic. He would have gone for, I remember one of the years it was the SIDs that were cutting him off because he would have just gone on forever about how great every single one of these players, big, physical, strong, tenacious, all those adjectives that Mario would use all the time. I loved it.
Any more questions? No. I love the SID. This is inside baseball, but I don't know if listeners understand this. But the SID, any more questions? Nope. Okay, good. Like, you didn't even pause. You didn't even pause after you said any more questions.
Or the any more questions, and they throw it to the in-house guy.
Shout out to Rob.
Not that that's happened.
Way to go, Rob.
That's more inside baseball. Yeah.
All right. Tyson Alger of the I-5 Corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I talked about this earlier in the show, and I'm curious your thoughts because we're in a weird hybrid world, Tyson, where NIL is legal. It is part of the world, but we talk about the money going to these players almost as if it is secretive, right? We know these guys are getting paid. We know these guys are getting offers, and we know that these guys are out testing the market, as you should if you have market value, but we don't know the numbers. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't know the actual dollar value. We have some hunches and we have some guesses, but we don't know. So much so that Matt Rule kind of let it slip. It's like, yeah, it's $1.5 million for a quarterback, which is kind of where I've heard the number around Bo Nix was this year. Do you think moving forward we're ever going to get to a spot where we just kind of know the numbers? Where some coach, maybe Deion Sanders, is just going to be like, yep, we got $3 million to spend on a quarterback this year. Anybody out there wants $3 million and can play for us? Like, do you think there's ever going to be a time where we know the dollar value?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because, one, all these players are competitive anyways, and it's using Deion's a good example there. It's going to turn into kind of a chest thumping thing of this is what we're spending on these players. But also, I think it's just as you said, it's legal now, but it still kind of feels illegal. When you talk to your friends about it, right? It's just kind of yeah, he's coming back, and I imagine there's probably some NIL involved there, but it's just kind of this vague. For instance, I would like to know if Bo Nix is playing in the Liberty Bowl. In the Fiesta Bowl, just out of the goodness of his heart, or if a little bit of NIL got kicked in there.
Well, I think
maybe that's not fair to ask, but I also think that's what this is kind of brought up though too. Is it's all this, it's this thing that is there, but you can't ever see it, and so there's always just going to be assumptions around it.
Well, Tyson, here's the thing. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm not the dumbest either. And I know that the moment I saw, and I love Bo Nix, and I'm appreciative of everything Bo Nix has ever done for the Oregon Ducks, and I love the fact that he considers Oregon kind of a home away from home, and he's now our adopted son. But the moment I saw Bo Nix cut essentially a promo video telling people to buy tickets to, like, hey, come see me and my Oregon Ducks in the Fiesta Bowl. Buy your tickets now. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, that's a commercial. And like you said, I'm pretty sure there's an appearance fee. So, yeah. I would like to think, goodness of his heart, want to wear the O one last time and play with the boys, which is probably true. But he was also there hawking tickets to the Fiesta Bowl, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, a big part of it too is I think NIL is going to be dramatically different, anyways, in a few years. I don't know if we end up getting to a point where they're actually employees and the schools are paying them, and if that's the case, are they all state employees and we can just look up their salaries anyway? I mean, it's a mess. I want to know how much they're making just so I can feel more depressed when I'm spending my own money to go drive down to Eugene to talk for 5 minutes and then drive back up north.
Oh, man. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Interesting you brought that up because obviously former Oregon coach guy I mentioned earlier, Chip Kelly, he made some headlines. He made some headlines with a absolutely lobbed. I don't even know if it was a lobbed softball. It on a tee, softball size of a grapefruit. Question that he obviously had prepped for about what he wants to see college football do, and of course the butt kissers out there, boy, they were all over it. They loved everything Chip had to say, and man, it was smartest guy in the room. Of course it's Chip again. But I listened to it, Tyson, over and over again. There was not an original idea that Chip Kelly came up with. He essentially turned college football into the NFL. I have been against this. I'm losing this battle. I'm losing this fight. But the idea that just keep making it like the NFL, and then everything is going to be fine. But I'm curious your thoughts on the Chip Kelly model of essentially creating two NFLs, creating the divisions, paying players from TV revenue. I don't like it. I understand I might be in the minority. I was just curious your thoughts when you saw that video.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that sound good in that, and it certainly makes sense for like the teams that would be included in there. And I think it's also great if you're a team that's continually winning and you don't really care about the extra stuff that a lot of people do with college football, like the pageantry and rivalries and camaraderie and all that sort of thing. What I got annoyed about with the Chip thing, though, is like you said, there's on the X app or Twitter, there's a lot of people in our industry who were really gassing that up as like it's a new opinion, or as if the organizations that they're working for didn't have a very large part in creating this rift in college football. I mean, it's you have people from TV networks, you have people from ESPN and all those being like, oh, this guy's a genius. Why aren't we following this? It's like, well, you're also working for the companies that are helping. So it's just, I think it's an idealistic vision. I just don't think that you can just cut college football into two 60-team divisions and just think it's going to work like that. I don't know. I think Chip made it sound really easy, and it's not really that.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing. Like, I like Saturday football different from Sunday football. I've made that very clear. I've been on my soapbox. It's more of a stand, but I've got a soapbox here in the studio that I get on from time to time, Tyson. You may have heard it. Whereas, like, I want Saturday football different than Sunday football, and if you just create another Sunday football on Saturday, that there is a soul and a heart to college football that I think a lot of people have maybe lost because of the soul-sucking conference realignment that has been going on in our world. But also, I don't want college football red zone. I want to flip around the games as I see fit. I don't want it to be like, oh, one big TV contract. I like that, hey, CBS has this game and Fox has this one. And sometimes you got to search for a game, and it's kind of fun, unless it's Pac-12 Network and it's your team. There are just certain little intricacies that I think everybody's just glossing over as to why college football has that secret sauce.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, like, if you were to talk to, like, anyone about, like, why do you love college football, and everyone, like, pretty soon after the discussion starts, you're going to start talking about, like, how quirky it is, about how Pac-12 After Dark and all these mascots and this and that and the traditions, and a lot of that is because there's a whole lot of hands in the pot stirring. And I think as we've seen in kind of the media industry and maybe corporate world, when all that gets consolidated under just like one one umbrella. Like it doesn't remain the same product. And one of the things that I loved about this season too, because this was such a fun Oregon season, what made those two Washington games so great was like obviously it's two really good football teams playing, but it's because they had to have like the run-up of 12 games against random teams, and you had to see Washington barely beat Arizona, and is Arizona any good this year, and run through the non-con schedule, and there's just so much build-up in the regular season to put on those two games, and it turned into two of the better games that I've ever covered in Oregon history, or in my Oregon history. And I just think if you're playing those games every single week of the season against big-time teams, I think it just loses a little bit of that luster and build up and kind of the moment of college football.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Now, Tyson, I know when covering Oregon, you are a journalist. You went to journalism school. You are a reporter. You are a writer. And clearly you watch these games from that lens. I watch these games from the obsessed, crazy, emotional fan. But I'm wondering, as you are sitting on the couch in the Alger home, as your beloved Montana Grizzlies are in double overtime against North Dakota State, how do you watch those games? Do you have the calm, cool journalism mindset there, like you are in the press box, or are you like me, a crazy person who might be shouting at children who are playing 5 states away on the TV?
This was the first game in quite some time that I made audible noise during. Yeah, the go ahead touchdown. I let out a big, one of those, and then that doesn't happen that often. And I've always kind of had that complicated relationship with, because like when I went to school there, I covered the football team, and so you kind of had that I can't be a fan of the team I cover, even though like you go to school there. So like as I've kind of over the years I've come back around to now I enjoy watching my school's football team play, and especially when it's a night game on ESPN in the national semifinals and you take down North Dakota State in that environment. Yeah, I enjoyed that, but I also wasn't like full on like white knuckled either. Like I haven't gotten to that point quite yet.
Fellow Montana Grizzly Bill Orm was on the program not that long ago, and he floated an idea that I think is going to be interesting, and business opportunity for you, maybe expanding up the corridor. And I'm going to throw this to you because you are a friend of the program, and you very, very generously give us your Wednesday morning each and every week throughout the year. But Bill Orm mentioned that, with the rumors of Ty Thompson and with where Oregon State's going and where Oregon's going, could we maybe see, and with both teams not being in the same conference for the foreseeable future, could we maybe see a 99 corridor where maybe players at Oregon who aren't maybe getting an awful lot of playing time just head up to Corvallis, and maybe somebody who's maybe playing a little bit better than they thought going to Corvallis and Oregon State heading down the corridor, and like maybe the population of Junction City in terms of football players might just start going through the roof. What do we think about maybe expanding to the 99 corridor between the two schools?
Are you trying to insinuate that like the Beavers are the Rip City remix of the Oregon Ducks?
No. Brendan's going to throw things at me if I ever to insinuate that. I am not. I'm simply saying that there's a new reality for both schools as we sit right now.
Because that's what I heard.
I try to hide it, Tyson. I'm such an arrogant Oregon fan. I can't hide. I try to hide it, but I can't.
I would love the Ty Thompson goes to Oregon State story and then has to face Oregon in September, like redemption arc. However, I don't know if that would go well for him in that specific instance. Like I think Ty Thompson, I still think Ty Thompson can be a pretty good quarterback, and I think he'd be a good fit at Oregon State. I just think that'd be a really quick time with a completely new roster to face what I think is going to be a pretty darn good Oregon team next season.
All I'm saying, I'm not saying that any one school is bigger. I'm just saying that if a player starts playing well and it's very close to another school where there's maybe more NIL opportunities, like we talked about, staying in the same area code instead of maybe transferring, 5 states over might be a little beneficial. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, It's just the economical sense, kind of like how it's really nice for the Seattle Mariners to have the Tacoma Rainiers pretty close to them as well.
I would not say minor league. I would never say minor league, Tyson. You are major league. You're a pro, and you are a friend of the program, which is a distinction we do not give to everybody. May sound like we do, but we don't. You can find him on the X app at Tyson Alger. You need to be subscribed to the I-5 corridor if you're not already. And you can hear him from time to time on this particular radio show. Tyson, I always appreciate your time on Wednesdays. I appreciate you coming on the big show. Look for moving on into 2024 and on. But have a good Christmas. Have a happy holidays, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon, bud.
Hey, you too, bud. Thank you.
There you go, Tyson Alger. He's the best. He called me out. He's right. I tried to hide it. God, I'm such an arrogant Oregon fan. It's bad. I don't want to be, but I am. It's in my blood. All right. It's in my Nike swoosh blood. All right. We have got the RCM mailbag to wrap up the big show next. 620 Rip City Radio. attack your Wednesday. Get Brenden ready to scour through the message boards as signing day is going to be going. Quick plug. We give the plug all the time. Quick plug, though, for Oregon State fans who are still listening to the program after that last segment. For Oregon State fans, for all the latest recruiting information, Brenden, where do the B fans need to go?
BeaversEdge.com. You want an edge rusher, not necessarily what a defense does when they chase the quarterback. You don't want that. Don't want that one.
You want the edge of it.
The edge rusher.
Not the name of the play call, but the actual position.
Correct. Yep, you're on it. See?
Boom.
Justin's even a Duck homer, and he knows what's up, so that's all you need to know, folks.
I've been on Beaver's Edge on the podcast.
Yes, man. Some would say it was a great podcast.
I would.
Some would also say those views were inflated because of a decision that was made 72 hours later. But
we missed the boat on that one, didn't we?
As Justin said, as TJ and I sat there and go, Justin, right now, at this moment, is Jonathan Smith the head coach on Monday? Justin, yeah, I think so.
I said 51%. I think I'm 51% sure. It turns out it was 0%.
It was already 0 when we recorded it.
Oh, boy, that one was fun. So for all the information for recruiting day, for the Beavs, go to beaversedge.com. For mailbag questions, stick around right now because we're doing it. It's time for the mailbag.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck the tough question. What do we have?
Chinese.
Yes.
Then going to the family later that night